This is eCoffee with Experts, where marketers and founders share what's actually working in SEO, AI, and digital growth. Grab your coffee and fuel your mind as we chat with top minds about their wins, struggles, and lessons you won't find in a blog post. Brought to you by Digital Web Solutions, we bring real talk to help you grow your business, one episode at a time. Let's get started.
Tom, welcome in.
Sure. Thanks for having me here. You know, I live in a house full of a wife and 3 small children, so it's exciting to finally get to actually dive deep into SEO as somebody who cares.
Yeah. No, I can totally resonate with that. I don't have kids, but yeah, I've heard to keep the receipt on kids. Depends who you talk to, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
That's hilarious. So you started Gouda Marketing, and that was based on the backbone of other experience, right? Like a lot of other founders, they have experience in other industries, but it wasn't a straight shot for you to come to like being an entrepreneur. Can you back us up a little bit and kind of tell us the journey of how you got to where you're at now?
Yeah. So it was a long. No, I don't want to be arduous about it, but it was. I started as like a music major in college, kind of like trying all these different things. So it was just a combination of like trying, learning, and then figuring out like if it's for me, how high the ceiling is, that kind of stuff. So when I moved to Chicago, I didn't have anything going. SEO was kind of the first thing that I learned in 2011. So it was very like basic, just an internship. I worked for free, far more than I should have. But that was like my first love, you know, it ticked all the boxes. It was like a David and Goliath thing where you as a small brand could compete with, you know, the biggest brand in your industry with quality content and like these different pieces to put together. So I did that. I worked in agencies for a long time. I got into all the paid channels, paid search, paid social, programmatic, that kind of stuff. And then more recently, it's kind of come full circle where more people were asking about organic than they were paid. And the paid side of things, you couldn't really be a standalone freelancer on these big business accounts because they would want to move toward an agency model. And I kept being supplanted and replaced by agencies, which is completely fair. So I kind of meandered back into SEO as like the volume and the noise kind of grew in the past 3 or 4 years to where kind of I saw this need in the market, and that has been turned up to 11, so to say, on this new like GEO, everything is AI kind of space.
I grew up in Ohio, and I know you're in Royal Oak. So Midwesterners, even though we're on, you know, the border of states that absolutely hate each other in college football, I know how it is to be in the Midwest. My mom grew up on a road that's single lane, and it's in the middle of nowhere. So Wi-Fi and connectivity was always an issue for us. So
yeah, gotta love it.
I know how it is. I actually was curious of your take on how to create content, not just for traffic, but for conversions, and your perspective on creating content for different points of a pipeline. Can you share a little bit about your strategy in that regard?
Yeah. So when we started seeing a ton of, I'm sure you've seen this, it's like small businesses and like getting into mid-market, they have a lot of super top of funnel and a lot of like company news based just to check a box. They're like, all right, we have a content strategy. It's this. It's mostly talking about internal things. So I take that and flip it on its head and start at the bottom of the funnel and work up. So take all this, as much sales data as possible. Everybody kind of like looks internal, does keyword external, looks at the keyword research, looks at what the competitors are doing, but they never like take a look at all of the things sitting internal at the company. You have sales calls, you have product data, you have kind of your own unique story and narrative. Take that, answer the questions that like sales are getting 5 times out of 10 on these calls, answer those through content, really address the root of the problem, and then relate it back super specifically to an audience, a niche, a persona. And it's like all these use cases of we solve this problem for this specific user and don't get too caught up in like the keyword data that have thousands of searches a month because that's the shiny object that everybody wants to rank for. I usually start with the individual, like fill in the gaps, find the vulnerabilities in the market that the market leader hasn't considered, and then work backwards from there.
Yeah, looking at sales calls is a really smart idea. And then do you take those sales calls and you're talking about like context within that call, addressing challenges or objections that a prospect might have or a customer might have, and then extrapolating that context to create content. Do you then cross reference to keywords that are out there, or like what's the step after that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still basing everything in keyword research.
Mhm.
So if whatever you hear on LinkedIn, take it with a grain of salt of like, we don't base our content on keywords. That's absolutely the starting point, the building block. So you take the calls on the content, take the sales calls, you add a little bit of a position, an angle to the piece, and then you supplant it with, keyword density like we've always done. And then now moving into like the AI space, I'm starting to do more of an FAQ, like question for a header, answer, really looking at the voice implications and the potential prompts that we can answer through these pieces of content, and then kind of like publishing that.
The reason that I reached out to you and how we got connected on LinkedIn was I saw that your content that you're putting out is very transparent. It's very down to earth. It's not so corporate-y. It's not like, yeah, it's not so boxy. It's much more fun. And I think that gives you a competitive advantage with, other people in the market who are uh, servicing B2B clients. Do you do the same thing for those actual B2B clients? Like you don't have to go as far as like creating TikTok dances or like making the founder role play or something. But I guess I'm asking, how do you bring a brand voice out in a world that's almost completely commoditized?
That's a great question. I think on one hand, like B2B moves slow. So the opportunity with the agency here is like, well, one of the things I'm up against is like doing too much myself and like wanting to own the entire situation. But I'm trying to expand this agency to do as much as we can within the purview of the space so that we're not reliant on the client. So I do put out a lot of like LinkedIn videos, and like I'm very unserious. Everything's so stuffy and very corporate, and there's like a LinkedIn voice and then there's your real voice. And I really find like I was on a pitch on Tuesday and the guy said, I appreciate you not trying to sell me anything. I'm like, well, maybe I should start selling, but I just want to have a conversation. I just want to lay out the data so you feel sound. There's enough people in B2B that are just trying to like optimize around page one rankings and like traffic and all these vanity metrics that at the end of the day are not going to pay that business owner's bills, that I don't want to have any part of that. So by kind of explaining and being transparent, I want to gain the trust, and I want to eliminate like the initial like 15-minute chat to get to know each other. It's like, I've seen your stuff on LinkedIn. I've watched your videos. Like I know how you think. So it makes that sales process a little bit easier. And then I don't have to be like this aggressive weirdo who's just like, hey, DM me back.
Where are you finding for your B2B clients? Like what channels are really working right now? Is it LinkedIn? Is it organic? Is it paid? Like where are you finding traction, and does it depend on industry?
Are you talking for like agency outreach specifically?
No, I would say for the clients that you're working with, and then yeah, I would definitely like to hear like how your strategy is working for you.
Yeah, I think it's tough right now because a lot of the paid channels are seeing the same kind of effect of AI. Like the impressions are getting more expensive. The clicks are getting far and few between. So I think LinkedIn is a solid like paid channel to approach your audience. That's like the most confidence I have in audience targeting by job title, by persona, instead of like trusting these platforms that have intent data and kind of like back your way into 5,000 different things. But then like content is king always. And then we're working into like the GEO space. For me personally in the agency, I don't really have like this outreach strategy quite yet because I feel like the sentiment in the market is absolutely negative on cold outreach and DMs and stuff. So I don't want to be too pushy. So I'm trying to create this brand narrative around myself and around the agency of like, this is who I am. This is what we do, show and tell kind of videos and posting every day. So then I'm referenced when it comes to these different topics. And it's worked pretty well. Like starting to get like, you reached out to me. I've had a few other podcast people reach out, want to chat. It's at least starting to snowball where my entire network of people I already know to reach out to me for this new SEO, but then the whole GEO thing too.
Yeah, and along with the content that you're putting out on LinkedIn, specifically for your B2B clients, how do you create content that is optimized for actual leads and actual inquiries and not just like you said optimized for, impressions?
Yeah, so I keep diving into the AI space, but it's a weird time right now because the LLM platforms are prioritizing, like, just put up a post today about it. Like 33% of all sources on ChatGPT are either listicles, like
Mhm.
top 10, this software. And I absolutely hate that kind of stuff in comparison charts. So it's like creating this weird middle ground before we're actually like at the thing that like people are creating like thin pieces of content that are gaming the system and it's
Mhm.
absolutely biased, but the LLMs are picking it up. So I have been working and doing those things just because I know that's what ChatGPT wants,
Mhm.
but really taking the focus on like creating middle and bottom of the funnel ideas
Hmm.
from the source, like sales calls and internal conversations and the executive team's nuance and hour-long conversations that we can record, add transcripts to like a knowledge base of Claude or something like that, and then pull out like the tidbits that really make a business appealing to the end user. We find a huge success with that. And then I don't know, it's kind of like show up everywhere time for everyone
Yeah.
else. It's like, all right, we're posting on our own website, but now everything's crawling YouTube. They're crawling Reddit, and then the Quora forums are back, and then like the data aggregators that have reviews.
Mm.
It's kind of like this crazy time where we're asked to do so much and consider the entire landscape of this weird organic go to market,
Yeah.
that it's exciting because it's innovative. Like the past 10 years of SEO have kind of just been this like stagnant, everybody figured it out, but
Mhm.
then not many people do it correctly and efficiently. And now it's this weird limbo period between the two.
Hmm.
So I think it's exciting. Like I just nerd out about it every day.
Yeah, right. Absolutely exciting. Absolutely exciting. And I completely resonate with the listicles being shown on ChatGPT. I was actually doing some research on our company DWS, and I was like, yeah, what are the top 10 companies in this industry? And it gave me a list, and each one of the one, two, three, four, five, they all referenced the same list. Like even though there were 20 other sources that chat pulled from, and I asked, I was why did you only reference one listicle when you're creating this top 10? And it couldn't really give me a strong answer. It was just like, well, it basically told me like that's what I'm optimized for. Like this page is optimized for this LLM. So I completely understand where you're coming from. It's like it's challenging because you don't want to write thin content. I think there's, I guess, how do you communicate that to a client that says, okay, well, this is the way we've always done it, and this is how I think our content should look like, and you are on the other side, much deeper in the AI space, much deeper in the LLM, GEO like emergence, and you kind of know what happens, those hacks. How do you communicate that to a client and say, listen, you hired me for a reason? Yeah. How do you communicate that?
I've been telling them to kind of build like two parallel strategies right now.
Hmm.
So it's like it checks this box of appealing to the search engines because we know like so many people say like GEO is SEO. The fundamentals are true, yes. So we're still writing this quality content because your business has to stand up strategically in the
Hmm.
space. Google's still about 90% of the search market. So we have to kind of make that side happy. And then I'm kind of saying, okay, so I don't know if we create a category of blogs or something that appeals to the LLMs, but not necessarily appeals to the humans. So we
Hmm.
have these two parallels and we can always like repurpose the distribution strategy of the quality, cut that up into like smaller snackable things, answer questions, just like one off, really easy, simple. You can do that every day from the bigger pieces of content and the case studies and these things that are necessary to have on all brands
Hmm.
probably won't change. But I think the way that people behave on websites is going to change a ton because if you think about it, it's like the last step before. Right now, it's the last step. If someone comes out of the LLM, comes to your website, there's something like 4.4 times more likely to convert. The
Hmm.
conversion rate's much, much higher. They've already done the research. They're coming to your website as like the last stage of the puzzle just to like book a meeting or fill a form and then leaving. So I think homepage, there's going to be a lot more freedom on websites. to not appease Google, to not play that necessarily like algorithmic game. And then like everything's going to shift to AI. So explaining that to a client is such like a belief shifting exercise. Like you and I kind of talked about like what's the next step for like page one, absolute first ranking on Google. Like, do we migrate people away from looking at that, or do we just shift that to like a directional metric that tells a good story? Like one of the clients I had maintained like over a 6-month period, maintained 40, the same exact number one rankings across the board. Their traffic dropped 20% just because I took a screenshot of end of the year, Q1 and Q2, and the first ranking actually decreased on the page. So like traditional SEO is being devalued. So that number one ranking doesn't really mean as much anymore because now it's halfway down the page under AI overviews, under any knowledge graph, and under any paid result. So you have to actually scroll. So it's like, you just move that to this like feel good, check the box kind of metric at the end of the day.
So let me make sure I understand this. If you're talking about the traffic that leads to a website, you can see the source attribution, like where that person came from. And not that you can see their whole journey, but you can kind of know, all right, this person came from this website from ChatGPT. They clicked a link in there and that's how they got here. What are you doing differently on the website side to optimize for actual conversions? And let me just preface that question with what is the extent that you help businesses with their offer as opposed to just their SEO, GEO, organic strategy? Do you help with the offer or?
We help think through it with all the data that we have from the content and the sales calls and stuff. So we'll help mold that and go through the whole like CRO exercises where you're looking at the landing page experience and you're making sure that like within 1 or 2 clicks, a user can get to a place where they can take action. Because I think that like time to information is this kind of metric I'm making up to gauge the quality of user lands on your site. It needs to like be pretty quick because ChatGPT is answering a question in 10 seconds, giving you the actual answer and giving you a subset action to go do. So if users are coming to your site, they can't find what they need. It's kind of like confusing. You're done. That's it. So I'll kind of work through the offer with them based on like keyword data, the actual content quality that we're creating, and then go through conversion rate optimization on the actual like experience. Because a lot of the stuff that we're doing is like blogs, articles, case studies, stuff that's further down in the website. And that content has the hardest time taking a user from absolute cold research phase to converting on the back end.
Could you say that again, just so I understand? You said that that type of content, the case studies, right, have a harder time converting people from a cold to taking an action. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, like the blogs and the articles and stuff. It's a more informational, educational search for a user, unless you're very focused on bottom of the funnel topics. Like fixing a problem I already know I have, or switching brands, or like comparing a subset of different vendors.
Okay. What about like what else have you seen as far as like consumer behavior? Like, do you have like, I suppose, metrics or a story that you can tell on how people are interacting with brands that you've seen shift, and how do you communicate user behavior?
Yeah, it's tough because it's like every brand is asking, how do we show up in AI and like what prompts do we serve? And so far, most of the tools, like I haven't explored Profound, but most of the tools will be a reactive tool. You will tell them what prompts to follow, what competitors you want to track. It's not like a proactive look at, you showed up in these 100 searches this month. And now down the line, OpenAI could release their own metrics platform where that stuff is pulled, kind of like a Google Search Console, which would be amazing.
Yeah.
But it's more reactive right now. It's tough because I just worked with a client, a global like brand, a SaaS brand that had majority top of funnel content. That was all they were pumping out, a ton of it. Their content team was great, but it was too top of funnel. So those absolutely got crushed when the AI overviews came in, answered the question. There's zero search network. It was so hard to have those conversations because you're like doing the right things. We're optimizing these pages and writing like middle of the bottom of the funnel. which is not going to increase your click rate. Those are lower search volume, but like higher intent. So you're not going to like rebalance these keywords when they're searching like, what's the best marketing campaign historically? And you're like, okay, that has no alignment with my brand whatsoever. So lately, it's just kind of like been the education tour of things are changing. We can no longer compare data year over year just because it's just so different in the search experience. And then when AI mode comes out, that just kind of like explains your query, doesn't give you options, clickable options. It's like, then we're back to square one trying to analyze everything that's that. So the good news is the people coming out of the LLMs are engaging in your website. There's a pretty high time on site, pretty low bounce rate, and a good conversion rate. So that's kind of my selling point on like the GEO thing of like, you need to show up here because your users are going here. They're doing 4 or 5 prompts to figure out the answer to the question. And then at the last minute, like if they decide that they want a meeting with you and one other vendor, they'll go to your website and make a phone call.
Yeah, it's tricky, man. It's just, like you said, it's hard to compare year over year data because like, 2-3 years ago, all this stuff didn't even exist. So it's like, how can we really compare? And kudos to you and other founders of agencies, like for just being the trailblazers and working through it. Like it's the wild, wild west. And it's a lot of small to medium sized businesses, like basically trying to figure out in the tailwinds what big tech is doing,
Yeah. It's crazy because we've come from a space of like 70% of my SEO pitch phone calls were just like these people so frustrated because they're like, I hired this person. They might have done something, but I just can't tell. Nothing happened. And now I'm here. I have half the budget. I need you to like pick this up and fix it.
Yeah.
And then you just feel so bad for these people. Like there's no regulation. It's just absolutely like, I'm trying to sell this thing and the snake oil and it just gets a bad rap and I feel bad, but it shouldn't be on these business owners to like figure out what page 1 rankings mean and like what this whole AI thing is. It's on the vendor to like provide trust and absolutely over communicate what they're doing and how it's affecting the whole outcome of the business implications.
Yeah. And as a founder, like I know that founders are very busy and it just seems like there's not enough time, even if, the top 1% of big tech companies like Google, OpenAI, Apple, whatever, are releasing things on a daily basis that say, hey, here's the updates are, here's how you can play within our rules. Like we just don't have enough time to go through and learn all that stuff. A, because I only have me, but 2, because it's going to change tomorrow. So it's like, holy crap. So I guess as we kind of near the end of this, there's two questions that I want to ask. One is if a client, like a B2B client, has a very limited budget and you can only go down one direction or pursue one strategy, like the search everywhere optimization, that's great, but we don't have the budget for that. How do you advise them in where to start or where to optimize their budget if you only had to pick like one channel or one strategy?
I would go after content consistently, build some sort of, I don't know, it's so easy now to build like, well, I shouldn't say it's so easy because I do this every day. It just seems easy to me. But for business owners or like small, tiny marketing teams to use the power of AI and build like a knowledge base that you can pull from and prompt, that kind of stuff, but just focus on content. Like tell your story, get a ton of social proof, really figure out like what your audience is, who they are, how tech savvy they are, like what channels they're using. Go like one by one, just learn the channel, incorporate your voice and your message, and then go from there.
Yeah. Be solid on content. Yeah. I love that. That's great advice. And then I guess the last thing that I'm curious about is when somebody hires you, are they hiring you for content or are they hiring you as like strategy, direction, tech, but not necessarily like content creation?
It depends on the budget, really. For some people, like the smaller businesses I work with, we'll just say, we'll create a prompt. And then like the new thing is just prompting something in AI, making sure that it's kind of humanized and then hiring like a copy editor in the space. So if it's health tech or something, I have somebody look at it who's super specific to regulations and anything in that space, copy edit it, make sure everything's accurate, and then humanize it a little bit, add a couple data points, add a quote or some sort of interesting thing. So lately I have been solving that problem because it's just like nobody wants to work with 17 vendors anymore. It's just like they want to come to you. They want you to tell them what to write. And then either they write it internally or I'll come up with something with a team of experts and then go from there. Because I don't want this overly AI slop to be presented as their brand for like a year down the road. Google says anything that's written AI is out. So it's kind of like mitigating against the future and then solving problems as I go.
Yeah. Last question here. If we have a listener who is a, head of marketing or SEO director at a brand, and they are considering reaching out to someone like you or another agency, what would you tell that person who's working at the brand to look for in an agency that will ensure that they have the best experience?
A lot of social proof. I mean, a conversation with a client, some solid aspect of a dashboard, some sort of metrics, like get in their mindset of like how they think about what they track. If it's super high level, you don't want that. You want them to think in the weeds of things and track not only like rankings, but are they in Google Search Console, GA4? Are they in Ahrefs? Thinking through the process, the overarching strategy, and then like how are they documenting it? A lot of the reports that I've seen from other agencies are just a snapshot in time. It's just the what. It's not necessarily like the why, the trends, the what happened the past 3 months over the previous 3 months. It's just like, here's how we rank right now. It's like, what do I do with this? So I think probably the number one is like how they report and how they're thinking and what's an example of something that they've sent to a client. And then, I don't know, I always go for like personality fit, like how well you work with a person, how well they communicate to you, because this is complicated stuff. Like business owners shouldn't need to worry about SEO. Just like hire you, go to work, and then like a month later, tell me how you did. So it's a lot of trust. It's a lot of like, I over communicate to a fault on like the first 6 weeks or so. I'm always like, hey, we did this, we accomplished this. These are little wins, but we're going to put them in the bank. So you're instantly gaining trust. You're front loading that first 3 months of the project. So like, kind of like you were talking about earlier, like the quick wins, the whole culture is like quick wins and immediate actions. If you can front load that first 3 months for a client, or that the SEO agency overinvests, and then you have a powwow at that 3-month point to say, is this working for you? Are you feeling like you're getting value out of this investment? Is the ROI there? Do we want to continue the next 3 months or the 3 months after that? So you're not like locking people into a 12-month, because those are always the companies that are like, what did we do? We got to get out of this contract.
Yeah. And then how do you get a good review and more social proof, if you're not delivering on the first 6 weeks or front loading that value?
Right.
Yeah, that's amazing. Tom, if people want to find you, is LinkedIn the best way to reach you, or how do you prefer to be contacted?
Yeah, probably LinkedIn. I'm most active there. Right now, we're just kind of like building through the website because your company is never the priority once you're getting clients and working through that stuff. So yeah, I got GoudaMarket.com up, but it's not anywhere near how I want it to be or built out. So LinkedIn, all over the place, posting and engaging.
You are, which I appreciate. Again, that's how we even got connected in the first place.
Yeah.
So Tom, thanks for being here, man.
Cool,
I
man.
appreciate you, and it's good to see you.
Yeah. Thanks, Austin.
You got it.